Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to something I've kind of wanted to discuss. Well, it's something I only found out very recently, and strangely enough, despite the fact that I'm wearing my LA Gladiators jersey right now, I feel kind of a little bit dirty for it, because I only found out about this earlier today, so I decided better late than ever, because I just wanted to discuss this. Now, what apparently Blizzard, I think they thought about doing back in, it was either May 14th or May 13th, just last month, they decided to come out with this thing called the King's Diversity Space Tool. Now, what you have to understand is that apparently this has been in sort of like its beta stages since either about 2016 or 2017. There are some sources that said it was been out since 2017. There are some said that this has been out since the release of Overwatch itself. It's at least one of the two. Now, what exactly? In fact, I'll tell you what. I've got a better idea. Let's. I'll go for this right now, because I sort of wanted to go for Blizzard Entertainment themselves, because one thing you guys might have to maybe understand this is that last year, Activision, Overwatch, Activision and Blizzard, they lost millions of dollars in a lawsuit owing to gross professional misconduct involving the treatment of many of their female staff. So this is why whenever we have to start talk about this, it's always, you kind of always have to wonder whether or not they're doing this because they know fine well they're going to look like arseholes because they've been caught out, or whether or not they are actually doing it for the goodness of their heart. And in order to read this properly, I need to go and close the curtains. It's, again, the problems with the lighting and that it makes it almost impossible to do these things possible without proper lighting and stuff like that. So, this one's a little bit of a read. So here is by a man called Eric Old on May 12, 2022. So, here we go. Editor's note, 7:42 PT, May 13, 2022. There has been conversation online regarding the Diversity Space Tool, particularly concerning its intent and our commitment to diversity. We've edited this blog post to clarify that this prototype is not being used in active game development. You're about to see why that is. We would like to add the following comment for additional context. Started in 2016, the Diversity Space Tool, currently in beta, was designed as an optional supplement to the hard work and focus our teams already place on telling diverse stories with diverse characters. Based on the sort of things we've seen over the last couple of years, since at least 2018 from Overwatch, well, from Blizzard generally, I like to imagine that's not exactly worked out for the best. Remember, I've been playing Overwatch since 2017. I'm just leaving that in there for now. But decisions regarding in-game content have been and will always be driven by development teams, despite the fact that the game has been floundering for new content for over 2.5 years. So, there you go. The tool was developed at King and has been beta tested by several developers across the company, all of whom have provided valuable input. Again, we'll see what valuable technically means when I'll show you the big thing. The objective of using the tool is to uncover unconscious bias by identifying existing norms in representation and acknowledging opportunities for growth in inclusion. However, like I said before, if you are included, goodness knows what happens when Blizzard, they decide to include you then. Because they start asking you to go on company trips, well, I think we might know the rest there. It is not a substitute for any other essential effort by our teams in this regard, nor will it alter our company's diversity hiring goals. Over the past several years, the development of the tool was done with the support of all our employee DE and I networks, and we collaborated with external partners to create an even more robust tool. The tool isn't meant to be used in isolation. Teams would sit down with company DE and I staff to identify existing norms and then discuss, educate, consult, and collaborate on how a character's representation is expressed beyond these norms. However, I'm not too certain about that, but whatever. This process is intended to create a conversation where our developers, assisted by the tool, challenge assumptions, assesses choices, and finds opportunities for authentic representation to be fostered in our games. Can I just stop this right there? Because the first thing I want to say right now is challenge assumptions, assesses choices. In the case of Overwatch themselves, okay, let's first do something really, really important. Overwatch is a video game. Not only that, Overwatch is an FPS online multiplayer video game. There's no real storyline in Overwatch as far as, actual game design and gameplay works. For example, there's no side missions where if one character has to do another thing on a stage to help out another character, that it doesn't really work like that. So if this was greatly driven by story, for example, if it was in something like The Last of Us, maybe that might be a little bit different. Because in The Last of Us, there are some things like plot. I've never played it myself, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be things in that game where they discuss morality, personality, diverse. If you want to make a game that actually wants to talk about those sort of things, then make a game that wants to challenge or go over these sort of things. The problem with Overwatch is that it's not really. It's a bit like saying, it's a bit like saying something on the lines of why you shouldn't be guys like General Bison from Street Fighter. There were plenty of good reasons, but pretty much one standing is that it's like they're trying to flesh out fictional characters as though they were very real people. That's the thing about this. Challenge assumptions. The only thing I have to challenge, to be honest, in Overwatch, if I actually want to play it as either McCree or Reaper. Oh, sorry, Cassidy. Yes, that's right. The reason, again, I had to correct myself is because I think it was something about McCree. There was a developer, and I think his name was called McCree, and they had to change it to Cassidy because he was one of the guys that was caught up in that lawsuit about not being nice towards female members of staff. So, again, keep that in mind. The problem is, as well, is that even with something like that, people still remember and they'll still acknowledge him as McCree. So, in some ways, it just doesn't really change anything because who's to say that Cassidy's likeness was not also based on that developer as well? Consider that. Anyway, where were we? Assesses choices. Again, in Overwatch, the only thing you really have to assess as to whether or not it's a good idea that you can hear Hanzo charging up to use Dragon Strike, and whether or not you if you were playing as Mercy, you wanted to use Guardian Angel to hop and then zoom straight past before you get hit by the first few moments of Dragon Strike. That's really, choices like that will only come in few and far between. So don't think for one moment that they're going to start telling you that, this is a major life decision. It's an in-game choice, and that's the thing. Keep these things in the game. Actually discuss things that should actually make the game better. Discuss how you want things you want to add to the game. Don't start ranting off about bullshit that nobody really cares for. And also, we don't come to play Overwatch to discuss, why certain characters rank high in terms of respectability. That seems like a Chris Chan reference, but to be honest, I think that's the logic these guys went to for what I'm going to get to. It's all leading up to it, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me. And find opportunities for authentic representation to be fostered in our games. Here, I'll find a brilliant opportunity right now. Actually include more characters in the game. Go back to introducing 3 characters for every single year. Actually do that, and you will get more people to be involved. This is not rocket science. Activision Blizzard is committed to reflecting the diversity of its millions of players around the world through representation and inclusion in its games as well as its employees. Our intent with this blog entry was to share an in-game process piece of our journey in this endeavor. We recognize and respect that all people may be on their own, unique point in their journey with DE and I. The diversity space tool is not a definitive evaluation of diversity in-game content. Rather, it is a bridge in opening previously unspoken conversations into how thoughtful inclusion can happen and thrive in games. Again, the diversity space tool is not a definitive evaluation of diversity in-game content. Rather, it is a bridge. A bridge, huh? Right. What sort of bridge? Is it a swing bridge? Is it a bridge that anybody wants to start crossing? Is it a bridge they're going to pack with dynamite, and the second we get to halfway across, they're going to blow it up beneath us? Because, again, I'll show you guys exactly the problems I have with that, and I suppose I could just go... in fact, I'll tell you what. Just to give you guys a little bit of clarification, let's just go over the first part. Now, this is the one that gets brought up quite a lot, because this one is like really, really struggling, and I don't understand exactly why they came to this conclusion. Because, okay, so for those who don't know, this is Anna Amori from Overwatch, and this is exactly how it rates. It's from a scale from 0 to 10. So let's do this. Culture, Egyptian, 7 out of 10. Now, if you're like me and you're wondering, just out of curiosity, how does being Egyptian make you a 7 out of 10? Because you could see it from both ways. You could see some people saying, so apparently to score highly in terms of culture, to be more cultured, you have to be Egyptian. Because I'm pretty sure there'll be even some people from Egypt who are sort of like, they will look at like that and just like go, huh? Because if it's like this with this, what exactly is higher than culture, than being Egyptian, for an example? And there'll be some people who are saying that, what do you mean? Like, how are we not a 10? And then there'll be some people saying that, why is it not 0? And that's the first problem right there, is that is it scored highly because she's Egyptian, or are the people who went out of their way to make this, they thought, oh, she's not white and she's not American and she doesn't speak or she's not from an English-speaking country. 7 out of 10. Print it. Is that the logic we're going by here? Because something tells me that is exactly the logic. Because wait till you hear this. This gets insane. This race, Arab, 7 out of 10. Age, 60, 7 out of 10. And what are these exactly? Now, why exactly? What's the metric? Who decides that being 60 gets you a 7 out of 10? Is this in terms of like, there aren't many 60-year-olds in game, so that's why she's rated that high? Is that the logic we're going by on this? I don't understand what's like... I mean, again, we go back to the original blog post, and they say more... challenges assumptions, assesses choices. Where does challenging assumptions and assesses choices fit into the first three? Where does that fit in? Do we choose... Hang on a minute. Are they trying to say for 1 second is that if you choose... It's... I wonder if there's like somebody maybe from like DE and I. We're probably like sitting here, maybe like developers, and they were just watching people like playing betas of the game. Maybe all the way back in when they did like the first trials in Korea. They were probably just a couple of guys there, maybe just were sitting there ready to play the game and all that. And then somebody who was playing support decides to pick Anna. I reckon one of those developers would be going like, oh, interesting. So she picks an Arab character. Very good. Is that the logic we're going? Okay, so cognitive ability. This one is left as just reason, so nothing. 0 out of 10 for cognitive ability. Physical ability, one-eyed, 4 out of 10. Body type, slim plus curvy. Are we looking at the same character? I mean, okay, slim, yes. Anna does have an incredibly small hitbox, but even in skins where, even in customizable skins where she has a little bit less clothing, where she's like summer sports or anything like that, she's not exactly what I. Curvy is that I don't suppose curvy is the right sort of, because when I think like I suppose maybe when I think of curvy, I think of something like something that's a little bit more defined or something like that. Again, you have to be very, very specific when you're talking about things like curvy, but apparently that gets you a 0 out of 10 as well. So I don't understand. So being slim, just like being thin and that gets you a 0. Why? Why? Facial features / beauty. Again, very interesting use of the word beauty, I suppose. Slightly aged, yeah, on account of the fact that she's a 60-year-old woman. 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10. Oh, and by the way, get this. Gender identity, woman, 5 out of 10. So what is it like then if you're rated as a man, therefore? Is it a 5 as well? Is it a 0? Is it a 10? Is it a 4? What is it? What am I supposed to think when looking at stuff like that? And finally, sexual orientation, heterosexual, 0. And also, I think there's something called a socio-economic background, middle class, that gets you a 0 as well. I've seen the larger one for this. So, and also biography. Real name, Anna Amori, age 60, occupation bounty hunter, base of operations, Cairo, Egypt, affiliation, Overwatch formerly, everyone must find their cause. Again, that feels very, very cherry-picked for this. Why couldn't they have just used the line for when you choose her and she loads up on the screen, never stop fighting for what you believe in? That seems like a pretty suitable one for someone like Anna, because it pretty much fits her character. So why? What metric or what criteria do you have to meet to score high on this list? Is the idea to score high on this list? I don't understand what the criteria. This is, you can't treat, and listen, I know again maybe I'm getting a bit too much into this, but here's the next problem that I have with this, and let me see if I can find the next one. For some reason, I've got 2 of these up. Okay, here it is. And I found this out on Kotaku. Activision Blizzard's new diversity game tool comes across terribly. Updated. And it was updated, okay, right, from the 13th. Because there's one really big example I kind of want to find. Let's see if I can open this one up. So, okay, we discussed Honor first, and you can see here, hopefully, these are like indicated by these different little pins. And again, I don't have any of this up, so you're gonna have to bear with me a little bit. Okay, so the blue one is Honor. So Brigitte is this slightly light shade of brown. In terms of culture, okay, but you can see right here. So. Well, actually, we can see from here. So, culture, Brigitte being Swedish, that means she gets, I think that's meant to be either 4 or 5 out of 10. I think it's something like about either 5 or 4, which, yeah, that's a good representation right there, because I'm pretty sure even, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In terms of culture, she gets a 6. Race, she's white, so 1. Okay, so that's got to be 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of 10 for being white. Age, now Brigitte is roughly about mid-20s, I think. So that gets you a 9 out of 10 for just for being a young woman, basically. That's cognitive ability is something around here. I'm a little bit skeptical against exactly how this what the rating for this is. And poor Zenyatta doesn't even fare that much better either. Look at this mess. It's just, because again, this means nothing but it demonstrates just why. What does all of this prove? And I may as well go over this as well, because I think we sort of like heard from Activision Blizzard as well, and bear in mind we could also hear this from Forbies, and we've seen the Honor one already about the problems of this as well. Because what's quite interesting is that they kind of went their way, Activision Blizzard, because they actually got something from the International Game Developers Association Developer Satisfaction Survey from 2019. And if you want to read this online, it's a public document, so you're absolutely free to read this if you want. Because this one goes into like a lot of things, and I'll tell you what. Let's go into age. Let's just do that first, because where is it? Okay, age. Because again, I try to want to understand exactly what the logic is into the scoring system, but I feel as if like trying to do that, it's giving Blizzard a bit too much, too much of the benefit of the doubt. But let's go into this. Survey respondents ranged in age from 20 to 76. Relative to previous IGDA surveys, the 2019 DSS respondents were older. This could be a feature or of the sample of a singular or larger trend of aging in the industry. The 35 to 39 age bracket for the 40 to 49 age bracket each made up... the point is that this is just identifying things like age. So apparently when you make a video game, you've got to disclose apparently to some people about how old a character is. So excuse me for one moment, because what I'm going to do is... tool Blizzard. Because again, I've tried to look for exactly where it is, and... That just about sums it up right there. Asmongold with his face in his hands. We've looked at Honor, but there is one more character I sort of like wanted to showcase, because it sort of again highlights a much larger. Well, I suppose Winston as well. That would be very problematic because identify as an ape. So where exactly is? I'll tell you what. I'll just type it in. Where's because they do include one for Lucio as well. I know that's definitely one that is made public. Score. It's around here somewhere. I absolutely know it is. But the problem is that, well, I'll just sort of like explain it now, just in case I can't find it. Oh, right. Well, here it is. It's a slightly very rough one, just to say the least. And I've got to go through all these hoops and that just to get here. So, this is the score that they gave for Lucio. And notice again, for those who don't know, Lucio is Brazilian. And for culture, it throws him somewhere into the very bottom part, into almost the very lower end. Then, of course, you got age, and Lucio is one of the younger characters. He's like 23 or 22. Gender identity, he has a heterosexual male, so that gets you 0. Body type, he's quite well built and slim, so that gets you 0. Sexual orientation, so again, that's straight, so 0. Ability, 0. How do you get Lucio is one of the most useful support characters in the entire game, and he gets a 0. Why? Is it because of the dreads? Is it because of his glasses? Is that it? Oh, hang on a minute. Wait. When they say culture, there's an important part to Lucio's backstory where his father worked for some Vishna. I think it was called Vishna. It was a company that Symmetra worked for, and his dad had a lot of his technology stolen by Vishkar, and then Lucio stole it back. Is that what they mean by that? Are they trying to like assess or make an assumption about if you're Brazilian, you're going to be a thief? Is that what we're going off here? That's not a reflection on Brazilian culture or people from Brazil. That's just what happens in the story. That's just what happens, as a backstory for why Lucio is even here. You see again how problematic this looks and how bad this makes Blizzard look, and how, again, ethnicity black, and he gets 9 out of 10. So you're not even good enough to get a 10 out of 10 if this is what we're going off. How insulting do you think that must sound, that the colour of your skin is now measured as a scoring system? It's what's referred to in the industry. You see, they're talking about things like diversity and inclusion and all this stuff. What, unfortunately, the problem is that, yes, absolutely, you could absolutely say they do include people of different diversities, different nations, and Overwatch does do this. But when you do stuff like this lends you into a very dangerous territory where you are described as not really talking about diversity anymore, but when you're talking about things like tokenism. Now, tokenism is when you will just decide to put people on a pedestal who just so happen to be from people from different backgrounds. That's pretty much exactly what this almost revolves around to. So I'll tell you what, I'll do you guys one better, just in case you think I'm not being fair in all this. Let's do this properly. Tokenism versus diversity. Read the rest of the story with a free account. Right, okay, that's absolutely great. Thank you so... Great, okay. Okay. Diversity has become the term of the century. Every company is working hard to improve diversity with the organization in hopes of a more favorable public image. There you are. That's could be absolutely a reason why they're doing that, and almost trying to make people forget about, especially in Blizzard, about the lawsuits that happened last year by the state of California. Attracting top talent from different backgrounds and ethnicity is assumed to be the best way for a company to be considered a diverse workplace. If a firm hires enough people of color and or women, they solve the diversity concern in the company. The solution to the issue seems to be establishing and achieving a quota, or a numeric target, of how many percentages certain underrepresented groups should be hired and retained in the company. So, if it was literally up to Blizzard, or they would obviously say one, I suppose. Could you imagine what would happen if somebody really did just say that they only hired one woman or one black person just because they were told they had to? Could you imagine the sort of outrage that would bring? Because, again, let me just, again, in case you're thinking I'm being unfair, if in my opinion, if you were looking for a job to work for Blizzard and Activision, for example, what should matter more than anything in the world is if you are qualified and more than capable of doing the job. It should not come down to anything regarding, orientation, the colour of your skin, age, or anything like that. It should be, can you do the job that we are asking you to do? It shouldn't be any more complicated than that. And you could say that they're not really trying to overcomplicate things through stuff like this. They're just trying to show that they are in line and that they have a good public image. But then again, public image, it's how people see them looking diverse. Again, it's this strange thing I've always had in the back of my mind that how did I once put it, that there was when I go to church on Sunday mornings, there are plenty of people who go there who will go there on a Sunday morning, and I can't help but sometimes think to myself, what do you think is more important for them? Is it that they go to church and they go to praise and worship God, or is it more important that they are seen by others praying and worshipping God? Is it just an image thing? And that's, again, you could apply that same principle here. Do you think for Blizzard and Activision, it's more important to be seen being diverse, even if they don't really want to? That's the things you've got to sort of keep in mind, because, again, with stuff like the diversity space tool, I can't help but get a very strange feeling that this is how the only way they can actually express that they are not doing it just for show. But unfortunately, I think that's how you end up getting stuff like this. And again, it's not to knock anybody of any different orientation, diversity, race, color of skin, anything like that. But I'm very, very concerned about if they think this is the best, this is what they had in mind to show it. Anyway, getting back to this 1 second. However, a diversity quota is that, just a quota. It is symbolic. It is a symbolic effort that does not mean a lot if inclusion is not involved. And without inclusion, it just generates another issue, tokenism. There is a fine line between diversity and tokenism. This year we have witnessed, what exactly, 2020, okay. This year we have witnessed so many racially motivated incidents and uprisings. A particularly prominent one is the movement surrounding George Floyd's death and Black Lives Matter. This was such a defining moment that social media was almost entirely dominated by Blackout Tuesday hashtags. With these happenings, it is only natural that the topic of diversity has reached the spotlight within our workforce discussions once again. But what everyone seems to forget is that creating a diverse team is not enough. This is where inclusion enters the stage to play its role. Inclusion is a continuous process that must last long after these employees are hired, because when it is absent, this is when because when it is absent, that is when tokenism reigns. Tokenism is a forced form of diversity that creates a superficial appearance of equality without truly achieving it. It lacks the inclusive behaviors that matter. The concept of inclusion is involving a wide range of workers in the decision-making process in the company instead of just having them present as mere representatives. Tokenism is the practice of making a symbolic action by recruiting a small number of people from underrepresented groups to take an appearance of racial or gender equality within the workplace. Inclusion is never about ensuring that 10% of your employees are women or non-white. It is about giving that 10% a voice to be heard, including them in important meetings and empowering them to be the best in your company. Because ultimately, diversity is not about only focusing on race, sexual preference, disabilities, skin color, and gender. It is about gathering varying ideas from different employees, regardless of their beliefs and ethnicity. And as a leader in your team, take a step back and ask yourself, have you met your employees from different backgrounds, gender, and ethnicity collaborative and create a meaningful impact in the organization together? If the answer is no or not much, that is a sign that tokenism is happening in your organization. The danger of tokenism at work. The practice of tokenism is not only harmful to the individuals, but it can also negatively influence the whole organization. Let's delve into some real risks it can pose. 1, it conceals inertness. Giving 10% of leadership seats to women, candidates seem like progress. But again, this only talks about statistics. When they are not driving big decisions nor having major contributions, they are simply figureheads, and that is not a progressive improvement. 2, it creates an inaccurate sense of security to leadership. Since the underrepresented person may not have enough voice to express their dissatisfaction, the leadership may not be aware that they may feel excluded. And with this false impression of security, it is easy to maintain the status quo and not make any positive change. Again, going back to Overwatch for 1 minute, when you consider things like development, despite, Overwatch, Blizzard could say they have half of their workforce are women and also non-white. They could come up with as many statistics as they want, fictional or otherwise. If the game doesn't change, or there's nothing new added, or the only thing is just things patched, things that 6 years into a video game, these things should have been addressed already, and they go through all of this stuff, and there's nothing really groundbreaking or different or new or exciting or things that people would actually want to make them play their own video game, Is that any useful whatsoever? What use were those statistics right then? It's also kind of bad when you think to themselves that a company should be responsible enough to make sure that these issues don't, become like, the big thing that people talk about. These are things that Blizzard should be just, and this isn't just limited to Overwatch, by the way. It could be going to things like Diablo, Hearthstone, World of Warcraft, or every single expansion they do. Things like even like Heroes of the... I wonder if they had like conversations about stuff like this when like Heroes of the Storm was still circulated among other well-known IPs. And again, it doesn't just have to be limited to things like Blizzard. It could be things like Electronic Arts, Naughty Dog, countless others as well. But Blizzard seems to be the one, especially because of what we're talking about right here. 3. It negatively affects mental health. Being a token is frustrating. Individuals may feel the extra pressure to represent the outnumbered group. They may also feel a sense of isolation, especially when their contribution may go unacknowledged or when they do not have somebody to support them if any microaggressions do happen. And that's kind of bad as well. Think about all the hundreds of employees probably at Blizzard who hold no prejudices, who get along really, really well, and yet they're seen as people who aren't. That is a very different matter. And then if you hear about things about people getting harassed just by things like being associated, and despite them saying they're not, they're like that, and they prove everything they have and all that, and there's nothing that, it's the phrase, you throw enough shit, some eventually sticks, whether it's true or not. And that's kind of sickening, to be honest. And 4, it hinders business performance and growth. When the tokenized employees are not given a chance to get actively engaged in the organization, they can often feel unmotivated to perform at the best of their capacity. The company will then miss out on an opportunity for success. Now, besides that, and yeah, it's that I definitely do want to say, to be honest, it just, and I suppose as well, maybe we should just like end all of this off by returning to this Keitaku thing as well, and maybe we'll look in a little bit. I think we could go into like the 4Bs one as well, but let's actually, I'll tell you what, let's do the 4Bs one instead. Okay, so we went through again all the things about the editor's notes before, so let's get into what it is when the actually things begin. The tool isn't meant to be used in Activision Blizzard is committed to reflecting the identities. Okay. These images will be on the internet forever, is the first thing 4B say, and they are true. And raise a whole... I'll try and make this... I'll make this bigger for everyone. Okay. These images will be on the internet forever, of course, and raise a whole lot of questions. Like the one that is shown of Honor from Overwatch. Yeah, we went over this a while ago. While I understand the default 0 baseline here would be cis, straight... white male, the most overrepresentative demographic in games. Yeah, I agree with that. This raises a lot of questions. 1, if Ana scores a 7 out of 10 for culture and race by being an Egyptian Arab, what exactly is a 10 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10? How are these tiers calculated? If her age of 60 is also a 7 out of 10, does say a 100-year-old character earn her a 10 out of 10? Or a toddler, because you don't normally see those in FPS games? There's good reasons for this. We're ranking disabilities as well. Having a missing eye gets Honor a 4 out of 10 in physical ability. Is color blindness a 1 out of 10? Is full paralysis a 10 out of 10? Yeah, again, they don't categorize these things. Honor is a woman, which gets her a 5 out of 10. How would trans characters be rated here? What is a 10 out of 10 in this category? Again, your guess is as good as mine, it's never explained. Anna has a 0 out of 10 for body type as she is slim plus curvy, but another removed image showed the muscular Zarya scored higher in body type than Torbjorn, the short, round dwarf-ish guy. Why? So you can see the problem here, and why everyone was questioning the ins and outs of the system. I'm not sure the new explanation is doing them any favours. And really, I just want to know what a 10 out of 10 in all categories would look like. In conclusion, hire diverse teams is exactly what the role is, the message here. And again, you kind of have to... I'm going to end this video by just saying this right now. They say... Overwatch said... Well, I'll just again end this video by saying this. Blizzard and Activision, they can say they take all of these accounts very seriously. They say they hire teams of people who take all these accounts in. But they can say as much as they want. When you turn out stuff like this, that's exactly what do you expect people to think? You know what this always reminds me of, I think this is always quite a funny thing to like look back on, but it was something I was taught in a film class about 5 years ago. Yeah, it was about 5 years ago. Speedy Gonzalez, who was an American-made character who was a Mexican mouse, and he was banned, by the way, I think during the mid-1950s. Because apparently case studies showed him to be a gross misrepresentation for Mexican people. And ironically, apparently, when they did these case studies, Mexican people apparently loved Speedy Gonzalez. That's a real thing that I heard from my professor. Is that apparently the study showed that he was really, really liked by Mexican people. The people that probably white Americans, they probably thought that they wouldn't like. So what you had in that instance was white people go out of their way to create a character that afterwards they suddenly decided was not okay, despite the fact that they banned him anyway, despite the fact that people who they thought that ethnic they were misrepresenting, they actually did like. So the question I want to raise here is, even people who say they are absolutely fine, they ignore the people who say they're absolutely fine because they are part of the ethnic group that they think they're misrepresenting. It's exactly when they wrote off Apu Nahasakima Petalon from The Simpsons. For the most part, when I looked at reports or studies about do Indian people think he should be banned, they were just like, we don't really, it's not really important. They were just so like okay with it. But that didn't stop him from being written off anyway. And you see what the problem is here is, and it's the problem here again, is, except well, actually it's not quite like that, but the problem here is that this is written like with no sight or no real purpose whatsoever, because again, this doesn't mean anything whatsoever to the game. It doesn't change anything. It does change something. It does change exactly why on earth would I even want to think about giving Blizzard the time of day? Because again, aside from everything else, what does this actually achieve? What does anything about this ranking system of diversity? It's really a tokenism generator, to be honest. But is that it? What on earth are we supposed to... Does this make any... And also, again, Zarya... And also, again, because they showed the little image here, Zarya gets like a 2 for culture and a 0 for... a 1 for ethnicity. And you have to understand, one, Zarya is a Russian character. So are they doing that just because of the things going on in Russia between them and Ukraine right now? It's interesting as well how very real world issues right now. Do you think that was affected because of very real world decisions, or is that just because that's what they thought? You know, if Blizzard really thought about it, they would have just included a Ukrainian character in the game at this point. Because to be honest, there you are. That's a good point right there. Why don't they just start with something like that? If they want to start throwing themselves into very real-world discussions and topics, why not just include a Ukrainian character? Why not do something like that? I'm saying all of this because, again, I'm like... I don't even know what else I'm meant to say. It's... Apart from, it's not a diversity generator, it's a tokenism generator. Which I will refuse to have any other part with or to do. Stick a pin in me, because I'm done.